Guys, welcome back to Elite Start Training, and we're going to continue our basic search operations course with the next video in our track awareness module. And in this video, we're going to take a look at the impact of lighting on a track and how that changes the way that we see tracks. Lighting is the primary influencer on how we see tracks. It can exaggerate the features that of a track to really see a lot of detail that exaggerates those features. But if we don't leverage light properly, it can easily wash out a track. And so here, what I have on the slide here is we have a photograph. And in the photograph, there are a couple tracks in this photograph. This is the same track with a flashlight shining directly down on a track, directly down on the track. And as you can see, it does not really help us out at all in seeing the track. And then lastly, we have the same track with the light shown at a different angle to where now we can really see the features of the track. Again, the impact of lighting on how we see the tracks. Again, over to the left, we can see a little bit of the detail. We can see the track somewhat if we know what we're looking for, but it's very difficult to see. In the middle, with the flashlight shining it directly overhead, it completely washes out the track. We don't really see it at all in the second picture. And then the third, we hold it at a lower angle, so that way it exaggerates the features. It really exaggerates the shadows in the track. So, as a general rule, whenever it comes to lighting, you want to put the track between you and the light source. And what this is going to do is this is going to cast a shadow across the track, and it's going to make it easier to see some of those features. It's going to make it easier to see some of that compression. I say it's a general rule because as I've spent enough time looking at tracks, there are exceptions to the rule. There have been times where I have seen the track easier with the light source behind me, coming at a different angle. It depends on how you kind of perceive things that day, and what the track and what's there for the track to show you. The general rule is you have your light source here and your searcher over here. That's the best way to see the track is we see that light being cast, and then we see where these shadows are created. Okay, that's the impression that we're looking at there. So whenever we talk about the light coming across and seeing those areas of compression a lot better, compression in combination with the right light angle would create what we call the shine effect. Shine it's a slang term, but what it's doing is it's describing how the compression is changing the way the light is reflecting, and it makes the compressed area appear different than the surrounding area, which is the example we have here in the photo to the right. We can see with the light angle, we have three very distinct lines of track in the photo here, and they look different. They pop out differently than everything else in the photo, and it appears to shine. So that's why it's given that term. That's that slang term, the shine effect. So if you hear someone saying shine, that's what they're referring to there. Is because of the way the surface is compressed and the way the light is now bouncing off of it differently than the surrounding environment. It visually looks different than the surrounding area. Here we have some more examples of the effects of lighting. So in this photograph, there's a track in this photograph, but the tracks where the light is actually coming from behind the searcher in this photo. So we have, take note of the two leaves and the small piece of bark up here at the top. If we were to flip this around where the searcher is now facing the light source, we have a totally different view of that track. Totally different view of that track. So again, we go from here where we have the two leaves and the small piece of bark. And actually, if you know what you're looking for, you see the track right here. You can see the track right here. Flip that around, and we can see it with so much more definition and so much more clarity because the light is exaggerating the features of that track. It's casting those shadows to where those are easier for us to perceive. We can visually tell it's different. We see the pattern. We know that that pattern is not something that's going to be naturally generated. So not only do we see this track, but we also see the stuff back here in the background. We see the tire tracks. We can see the heel. We actually see the whole track here as well. So this is a good look here at the effects of lighting on a track. So in terms of tracking at night versus the day, I showed this on the photos earlier. At nighttime, what you're wanting to do is you're not wanting to hold the flashlight and cast a beam straight overhead on a track. What we're trying to do is we're trying to cast the light at a low angle. We're trying to hold that light source at a low angle and study the track with the light coming across the track. That's how we see the shadows. That's how we see those exaggerated features on the track, is by casting that shadow from that low angle light source. We want to avoid using a high lumen flashlight, something that generates a lot of light, because that may wash out a track. And then hot temperature lights. If you look at a flashlight and you look at the specs on a flashlight, the bulbs will have different temperature ratings. The higher the number, the whiter the light, and then the lower the number, it's going to be more of an amber colored light. So you want to avoid those extremely high lumen flashlights, because they have a tendency to wash out the track if we're not careful. You can certainly work with them if you're familiar with them. My advice on flashlights is find something that works for you. Test a few out. I have certainly spent way more money on flashlights than I will ever admit to my wife. That's just because I've always been on the quest for finding the right flashlight for tracking. I prefer a flashlight that's more of a floodlight as opposed to a spotlight, something that's going to cast a wider beam, and I have a better chance of picking up a track in an area. And also, it has a less chance of washing something out like a spotlight would. Spotlights tend to be a very high lumen, because they want to cast, they want to throw a pretty good beam out there. A floodlight is more designed to light up the immediate area, is more what it's designed to do. As a tracker, that's what we prefer. We want something that's going to give just enough light so we can create and exaggerate these features on a track, but not so much where it's going to wash it out. During the midday, we can still manipulate the light to our advantage during the midday, and we do that by shading the track using a hat, a poncho. You can have a member of your team stand between you and the sun. You want to cast some kind of a shadow over that track, and then either use your flashlight or a signal mirror to redirect that light over the track at a low angle. We have a couple of examples here of showing this how this is done. The example here at the top is using a signal mirror. We can see the light coming in from this way, and it's being blocked by the hat. And then we have the mirror here redirecting that light back across the track at an angle to where we can see it. Same thing here. We have the light, of course, coming this way. We have the shadow that's cast by the hat, and then the flashlight coming across it, so that way we can see the track. We can see the impression inside of there. Okay, so that's how we conquer that during the daytime. So things, if you're looking for tools of the tracker, things to keep in your pack that may be unique to other ground operations. You want to have something to shade that track with. If you don't carry a wide brim hat or a poncho, usually something to consider. And then also the signal mirror. The signal mirror it's got a few different purposes, and it's something that's, it's small enough and doesn't weigh anything to weigh you down. But as you can see, it's casting a very bright light back over that track, more so than we have with the flashlight. It looks a lot different and much brighter with the signal mirror. So something to keep in mind in terms of the tools to keep in your pack. And that is going to bring us to the end of the video here on lighting. So again, lighting is a primary influencer for how we're going to see tracks, and being able to control that light and put it in the right spot is really going to help us exaggerate those features of the track. So that'll bring us to the end of this video, and thank you for watching.